So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So a couple things just to kind of start off. If you do have any questions that you'd like to get answered, definitely use the Q&A section. Right now, the chat is not monitored by our team. You could definitely go in there and chat, but as far as like any direct questions, definitely use the Q&A tab. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. Oh, I skipped a slide. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Ivan, and I'm going to be talking about task relationships. I'm a product manager here at ClickUp, and this is one of the features that we've been working on, currently in beta, but definitely looking to kind of do a lot of improvements and get out of beta as soon as we can. All right, let's talk about what we're going to be covering. So we're going to do an overview so that way you kind of understand what task and really doc relationships are in ClickUp. We're going to be talking about the different types of relationships because our relationship feature comes in a lot of different flavors, and kind of knowing what each one does and how to use it is what's going to be really helpful in your use of the feature. We'll talk about RollUps as well. RollUps is a new thing that we added that allows you to kind of extract information from these different types of relationships. So we'll kind of have a dedicated slide on that one. We'll also kind of start playing around with it. We'll demo it real quick so you can kind of see these, how they work. The first couple of sections are going to be mainly slides and bullet points, but we will get a time to kind of dig in and talk about those as well. And then we'll talk about kind of what's up, what's coming up next, what are we currently working on that should be releasing in the next couple of weeks, and then what we plan to do for this feature. All right, let's start with the overview. So the first thing to kind of understand is that this is a semi-new concept. So the thing about tasks, or just let's call them linking in general. We've always had this idea. We've had dependencies links, we've had doc links. There was even mentions. Some of them were two-way, some of them were one-way, and they were a little bit scattered. We had all these different features, or we currently still do. We have all these different features, and people use them in their own way to kind of relate things together, but there wasn't really a standard. There's also this coming request of people that are looking for more database style linking. This is where you may have a list of not exactly tasks, but it could be anything. Maybe you decided to use the tasks as projects and you have a list of projects. And you have another list of clients and you're using every single task for a client and you want to build a relationship where you can kind of pull from one list and kind of link it to the other. And that's been a popular request and we've been wanting to add it in. But we had to think of a couple things. It's one, we have to build the thing. But two, what do we do with all of these? So this is where we now decided to build out the task relationships feature. With relationships, it kind of brings it all under one umbrella. We decided to have still all the different types, include the new feature, but now call them all relationships and just have different types to kind of do different things. You have your tasks, you can link your docs, your dependencies, even any kind of custom ones. We've even thrown in integration and backlinks, and there's a bunch of other little features that kind of go under the relationships umbrella. Right now, this is just the beginning, right? We've put these things together. It's still in beta, but once we get it out and once we add in additional features, we're going to be building on this and getting them tighter and tighter together. If you don't see it right now, if you've gone into your workspace and you don't see any relationship stuff, it's because you do have to turn it on. It's in beta. It is a ClickUp that when enabled, that's when everything will be available. You'll have the new relationship types. You'll see the new layout. You'll see all these things that we'll go over. So it's kind of one of those opt-in things. We definitely recommend if you wanted to try it, check it on. And this is something that you can go ahead and play around with. Now, don't be afraid to check it on, try something, and then pull back. We're keeping all the data. So that means if you decide to go in, play around with it, go back to the old way, you could always kind of go back and forth, at least until we get out of beta. All right. Let's start breaking down the relationship types. Now, some of this may feel a little bit like overview, but now that they're all kind of under the umbrella, figured we kind of talk about each one of them. So let me first explain what I have there on the screenshot. In the new relationships feature, you open up a task and there's going to be a new dedicated relationships section where everything lives. There's dependencies, tasks, docs, all of them live there. You're able to add in your relationships. And one of them that you can add in is a task relationship. So this is by default, it's available on every single task, and it doesn't matter what workspace, what folder, you can pretty much link any task to any task. And it's on there by default. I like to think of these as kind of quick links because you can quickly search any task, doesn't matter where it is, and link it, but there is no context to this. What I mean by that is that when people start to link all these tasks, you can't really go back and know why was this linked. You just know that it was linked. Now, for smaller companies, I think that's probably fine because if it's a small team, you may all agree upon this is what we're linking these for. But in larger companies, you may want a little bit more structure. We'll talk about other options a little bit later. Some use cases of why you would actually want to do this. You could be in a meeting and you're working on a task and somebody brings up some other ones that you just want to quickly link. You can search them, add them, and kind of set that up. You may have similar tasks that kind of feel like they may be duplicates, like they may be related. Don't think too much, immediately just do a link and then come back to it later and then analyze it and then decide what you want to do with it. This is why you would use kind of this task link. It's a very flexible way of linking items together. The dependency link, another all-time favorite. This one, again, available on all different tasks, except now we're actually defining something. You start to define whether the relationship is being blocked or you're blocking that other task. So when you do these types of relationships, we actually have views and ClickUps that leverage these. So they're not just arbitrary links. We do have certain ones. Most popular, like the Gantt view, is one that you'll start to see all the dependencies mapped out. We also have certain ClickUps that'll give you warnings that you can turn on that'll warn you if certain things get completed or you're trying to complete things when they have dependencies on them. Now, when you talk about use case with these, again, waterfall method, if you use Gantt, you're mapping out an entire project. This is the type of dependencies and the type of relationships that you're going to do between your tasks. But don't feel yourself limited to that. Internally in ClickUp, we sometimes just use them when we need a follow-up with the client. So there may be a request from a user saying, we really hope to get this. We hear from our customer service team. We say, yes, the feature is actually on the way, but it's not done yet. Here it is. And then we just build a quick little link there. We make it a dependency. So as soon as it gets done and it gets delivered, we can follow up with the client. It's not a full-on project. It's just a simple way of saying, hey, I'm waiting for this one to be done. We have docs. Now, docs is different in the new way because we've added a lot more. So with docs, again, available by default, you can kind of get to them anywhere. But now you can link docs to tasks, but you could also link docs to docs. And that's one thing that we've added, that it's kind of two ways. So as soon as you make this relationship, you're able to look at the doc and see the attached tasks and other docs as well. One thing to note is that this is at the page level. So when you create a doc, you can go down to the page. That's what you're searching. That's what you're linking to. Use case for this one is kind of when you do need to link items that are across multiple different, how would I say this? It doesn't have to be tied to just one task, because one thing that you can do, and if you used Tasker before, is you go down to the attachments and say, I want to add a doc. We create a doc and that lives with that task. But everything is kind of tied with the task, the permissions, kind of the context of it. As you move it around, it lives with that task. But you may have something like a design guideline or something that's kind of more company-wide that you've created. That's what this would be for. It allows you to kind of get those broader ones, kind of link them in. Now, we don't have it in this release, but there's also additional reasons why we decided to make this a relationship. We have that rollup feature, which will allow you to pull in data from related tasks. Right now, it doesn't do docs, but the thought is it could one day, right? There's information in docs. There's tasks that have been scattered within it. There's tables that could be in there. There's word counts. There's a lot of information that we can kind of roll up and bring in. So this is another reason why we decided to kind of build out docs a little bit more. I'm going to take a quick pause here because every relationship type that you saw before was kind of good standards and they fit. You see task dependency docs, but sometimes you need a little bit more. So the idea here is that we're allowing you to create a custom relationship. So when you're in a task, you go here, you hit the create relationship. Then you get asked another question. Is this going to be a relationship that's linked to any task in your workspace, or is this one to a specific list? Right now, let's talk about the to any. There's slight behavior changes between these two, and we'll kind of talk about that right now. When you do this type of relationship, it can be added to any part of the hierarchy. So by default, if I were to just create this on a task, it's actually going to put it on the home list. So there's, if this task lived in a list, we kind of add it to that level, but you can bring it up, right? You can bring it up to a folder, you can bring it up to a space, and you can kind of leave it there, but you're also adding a name here. It's no longer just like task linking. You can call it whatever you want. So a good use case I'm kind of thinking about, you may have conflicts. So a lot of times when we're coming up with features, there's certain features that conflict with another one. Yes, we can do this, but there's also these other 10 requests that are the complete opposite. So how do we organize these? Well, you can easily create this type of customer relationship, call it conflicts, and then just start linking those items. Heck, maybe there's a doc or a whole nother initiative that you also want to link in there too. You can use that for this here. Let's say you do the second option here. Now you're actually linking to a list. So this one behaves a little bit differently. And again, a slight pause, because if you've used this kind of database-like relationships where you're able to kind of link two items, two lists together, two databases together, this is what you're looking for. This is the ability to get one list of kind of similar items and have another list of similar items and start building these relationships between them where you create these buckets and they kind of look up information from one another, right? So technically the way this would work is same as the previous customer relationship. It would look at your home, the home list for that task, and it would say, okay, this is the one. What do I need to connect this to? And then it'll connect it to that one. And once you have that relationship, then you can add in tasks. We'll play around with this in a bit, and I'll show you an example once we go through the demo, but just know that that's kind of the basics for it. So when you start to do this, there's a lot of different things that you can actually do. So some use cases is I have a list of clients and I want to link that to projects. All the other tasks are my projects, and that's how I do it. You can have a list of campaigns and another one be just a list of the content that's getting delivered. You could be an equipment rental company and you have a list of all the different equipment and then all the different renters, and you start to kind of associate those things together. So this is the other kind of relationship that you can also do. This is the last one. This one's a little bit different. So with backlinks, they are automatic. And let me explain what the use cases are for these. So every type of relationship that we've talked about so far has been intentional. You've either created the bucket and linked them, or you just automatically link them, but there was some sort of intention of this is related to this. But sometimes that's not the way the world works. You're creating a doc, or somebody wrote up a doc and you're just quickly mentioning it. Someone mentioned the task that you're working on in a comment, and you're just using kind of like our @mention feature. But there's not a direct link there. We just know that they're kind of linked. So what we've decided to do is that this is the backlinks feature. So in the backlinks, any task or doc that has any mention to it, it has a reference of it. So you can open up that task and find out what docs, what tasks have actually mentioned me, and actually go to them and see. Real use case for this one, we're trying to solve it where nothing kind of slips through the cracks, because sometimes there could be an important meeting and someone wrote in the notes that the project that you're working on suddenly has to get done in Q1. You weren't communicated that, so you want to make sure that you read that doc and you're aware of that. So just little things like that. This is kind of early version of backlinks. We're kind of right now tied to just the mentions. Later on, we're looking for more automatic ways where we can actually parse a lot of the content for you. All right. So far we've talked about all the different type of relationships. Now let's talk about this RollUp field that we were alluding to earlier. So a RollUp field is something that it works with the tasks, the dependencies, and the custom ones. As I said, it doesn't currently work on docs. Another thing to know is what it basically does is it allows you to pull in data from those related items, those related tasks. I keep on saying tasks and items interchangeably because that's kind of what this is allowing you to do, right? Once you start creating list to list kind of relationships, it's not necessarily a task. It can kind of be whatever you want it to be. But basically, this allows you to pull in that information and then display it in your current view. So here in this screenshot, we'll go through in a bit, but let's say this is a client and I have all the projects that are associated with them. I don't want to click into every single one to find out what the budget is. I just want that information here. So I create this roll up to be able to pull it in there. I even add in a calculation because I wanted to kind of have a total note for me as well. One thing to note here is that right now, all of the different fields, because we are pulling fields from the other tasks that are available, are just the task fields. These are the ones that kind of come with the task. So if you don't add any custom ones, you just kind of get the basic ones. That's your time tracking, your status, your priorities, you name it. These are the ones that we have, except for the list one. If you do a list to list, we've actually expanded that where you do get access to all the custom fields. Since that is also what most people are looking for when you're coming from another platform, right? You have this 2 different tables that are linked together and you want to be able to kind of pull in that information. Now, this is for now. We've seen a lot of requests and a lot of good use cases of how people organize their ClickUp, and they're looking to kind of expand that further. So we're really thinking in the kind of in the background of how we can do this, both from a user point of view, like good UX, and then also a scalability point. So that's just a couple notes for right now for this feature. All right. Cool. Let's actually start playing with this one. Oh, there we go. All right. I have a very simple demo here, but kind of wanted to give you a tour of the feature so you can see how it works. So here I have just like a list of just a bunch of tasks. Now, the first thing I kind of want you to know is these columns. So we've added the relationships as actual columns. So the linked tasks, the dependencies, the docs that we've been talking about, they don't just live in the tasks. You can also bring them out here. Right now, I'm just listing them out. So you can see that there's 3 dependencies to them. If you wanted to display these as names, you can also get the full text as well. Since I like it kind of clean, I go back to count. You can also do any of your custom ones. So like conflicts is one that I've created in here. You can pull that one in as well. You can hide it as well. And this allows you to kind of pull them. You could also do your rollups and you can create them from in here as well. There should be options. Let's see. Oh, maybe not working on this one. All right, well, let's jump right into a task. This is what I really wanted to share. All right, because this is kind of where it gets meaty, let's just say that. So with a task, and just keep in mind, a lot of these examples here, I just put in random text. So the relationships may not make sense, but the idea is here we have a task and then we have our relationship section below. So all the dependencies are listed here. We can add in new ones by either going to the main section or you can go into the one itself here. You can add in waiting and blocking ones. Your tasks also exist in here. Your docs also exist in here. Your backlinks as well as your conflicts. Now these here, I already did a roll up here. So let me start from scratch here so you can kind of see what it is. So here what I'm doing is that I have a bunch of conflicts and I've listed them out. So if I wanted to kind of pull information to display, I would use a roll up in this scenario. I'd go in, I'd select, and I think what was I doing on this one? I think I wanted to know the due date. Yeah, because these are conflicts. I kind of want to know when are these going to be due. Also give me the earliest so I know when to worry if there's going to be anything I have to pay attention to. You can give it a name. You can also add multiple ones at the same time. Or for right now, I'm just going to add in one just to see how this works. So what this does is it now pulls in this. It created both the field and also pulled in some of the information. So now when I open up this task and kind of any task in this list, I'm able to see the due date for all the conflict ones as well. Now, one of the questions that we may have is like, is there a limit to this? Like what happens if I want to add like 10 or 4, you name it. Not really. We did even make this expandable. The whole idea here was we wanted to give you something that was super flexible. So if you did want to have a full-on list, sure, go for it. You have that power here to kind of go into full list mode and kind of see all the ones there. Or you can do it as compact as you want. That's another thing as well. A little sip of water. Cool. All right. So yeah, so these are the kind of type of relationships that are kind of the standard ones. But let's go into more of the custom ones. So I have this other relationship over here. So in this example here, kind of a simple one, I have a list of clients. So I call the clients, but these are all my tasks. I have all my different clients, contractors, all the different contractors, kind of what they do, and projects as well. Projects going on and kind of all the information for them. So what we have here is that list to list one. So this client's one here is actually relating to this client's list over here. This is the one that we talked about where if you go into the relationships, it kind of asks you here where you can link it out to another list itself. So once you kind of have this relationship, then you're able to kind of fill it up with whatever you want. So here I've linked it up to the lighthouse ones, and you can see what it's actually doing is when you go to add it, it's only looking for that location. So it's not looking everywhere in the list because this is a relationship specifically between this list and the other one. And it's looking for clients, and that's what it's kind of doing here. So if I were to go in here, let's say I wanted to add a new one, Tesla. It's going to search. It's not going to find it. I can also just create it from here as well. So what this has done is it already populated the field. So if I were to go to my client section, you see Tesla is now an option. You also see that the relationship on the other end, it knows that it's linked to that project that I was just on. It also, with the roll-up field, and we'll talk about how I set this one up too, it already pulled in that data. So this is kind of the power of being able to have these relationships. It's doing a lot of these things automatically for you. So what we have here is that we do have this money field. So this is just the money one, and I've just put in all the different budgets for these projects. And then when it comes to the client one, show you this one is, this is just a roll up and it's doing that sum. So what it's pulling in, and I can open up one of these. Let's look, this one seems pretty full. So we can see that it has all the different projects. We have this custom one called budgets, and it's pulling in that data and it's giving me the roll-up information here. So that's total 85 for this client. And then when it comes to showing it here, we show that single value, that totaled amount. Now there's a lot of different things here that we want to expand upon. That's kind of one of the up next slide that we'll talk about, is that there's a lot more options in, like, I want to display them as different items. I want to get the highest item. You want to get things that aren't exactly calculated. So maybe you have checkboxes and you want to get the number of the ones that are checked. These are things that we also kind of know and we're also looking to kind of build out. All right. Let's see. Cool. So I'm not going to go too deep into this one. I think I'm going to go to the next slide here. All right, this is kind of some important things. So let's talk about what's next. So the one thing is we are trying to improve it. We want to get this thing out of beta. So there's a lot of just kind of usability and stability things that we're looking to improve. There are some areas as far as like when you do end up adding it, just making sure that it adds it to the correct locations. Are the numbers calculating at the right speed? Do you have to refresh? Can we avoid that? Can we do some auto refresh for you? So these are things that may be minor, but they're kind of big for us, and we want to make sure we do improve upon those. So task view and list view improvements. We discovered this as soon as we started adding in a lot of these tables into the task view, and we noticed that it did get a lot bigger, a lot more complex. So we are actually working on new designs to really simplify our task view to be able to handle a lot of those kind of more complex views while still keeping it nice and clean. So that's something that we're currently working on as well. Another thing is also just expanding the capability of these as well. So we didn't even touch about filtering, grouping. Heck, what if you want to use this in reporting? There's a lot of power when it comes to this. So that's kind of the next steps, right? Once we do feel that we are comfortable to get it out of beta, let's fully develop this in, let's get this kind of tighter. So that's kind of the next thing that we're also looking to do with this feature. Want to add in this slide here just because we're very much, and if you haven't realized it by now, user-led. We love reading all the different ideas that people have, all the different use cases that people have when using a lot of these features. It really helps guide the product. Even right now, that people have been kind of pouring into Candy and started to kind of drop their idea and their use case. And what I do want to encourage is that, especially right now, if you do have special use cases, if you have any ideas for these, please leave them. We're definitely reading. I will be the first to confess that I'm in there all the time reading a lot of these different requests. And really, the case studies are the ones that I love the best, because it's one thing to drop an idea and say, here's what I'd like it to do. It's another thing to understand how it's actually going to be used and kind of hearing all these ways that even we didn't think about. But it really does help us kind of develop the features further. Also, if you are trying this out, it is in beta, and if you do spot any bugs, please let us know. We do have the customer support team, and it's one of those that they'll forward it on, and the faster we can get these kind of patched up, the faster we can fix a lot of these things. So yeah, that's going to be it for me. I just wanted to leave you with that. Let's see if there's any, I'll open up the Q&A. If there's any additional questions, kind of specific things, kind of what's available now, what's coming up, please leave them in the Q&A. We'll have customer service kind of take a peek at those. Let's see. Let me scan these real quick. All right, we have Ivan. Oh, another Ivan, nice. So we have a question here. Do we have any estimates on when the filtering is gonna be available, like ands or ors and stuff like that? Now, is this specific to relationships with this feature? Have option combine and or, okay. So this is kind of a two-part one. So the first thing we do want to make sure we get is a lot of the UX and stability bugs out of the way. Grouping and filtering is kind of one of those that it's at the top of our list. We don't really have any estimates right now of when it's going to get done, but just know it's kind of towards the top, not towards the bottom. As far as like combining and or, that's kind of a more global filtering thing. I'm not the PM on that one, but definitely can get you some answers afterwards. Let's see what else we got here. Is there a way to have tasks from one list serve as choices in a drop-down field in another list? So kind of. So if you're looking for it to actually be the drop-down field, it currently isn't. That's actually kind of interesting use case. But what you can do is when you do go to that relationship and you open it up, if you do like a list to list, you could kind of pull it in. So it's kind of like it, but at the same time, kind of not. Something to kind of think about. Let's see what else we have here. If you are not an admin, can you add the relationships option? So you will need to kind of have admin access to be able to turn on that ClickUp. If you're on an enterprise team, I know there's custom permissions, so there may be things kind of around that. But usually, yeah, for any of these ClickUps, it is usually the admins and the owners that go in and do that. Let's see. We got a few of them. Okay, let's see. Just wondering if you can import Excel data into ClickUp. I would love to be able to build a CRM ClickUp database 5,000 clients. Okay. Okay, so that's actually is on our list. So the one thing that I haven't talked about is importing. So this is something that is not just limited to Excel. We are looking at how we can import any kind of relationship from a lot of our, because we have a lot of different competitors as well that you can import from. So it is on our list to try to figure out how you can import the relationships, but currently we don't have that available. But hopefully we can get to that this year. So when you're in a doc, how do you create a relationship? Oh, did we not go over that? Let's see. Let me quickly show that. All right. So let's go to a doc. All docs. Which one should I open? Actually, just one of these. Cool. So this is an important thing to note. So the design of our docs, actually, am I allowed to say this? Yeah, I think we can. Docs right now are going through a big overhaul in the background. So there's a lot of updates that we're going to be doing, including design updates. So where this is positioned right now, we're actually looking to improve, but I'm going to give you kind of what it is right now. So you'll see that in the doc, you have this kind of related section over here. If you don't have anything, you'll have like an add section to be able to kind of get to this one. But once you go in here, you can see all the different ones that are linked, and then you also have the ability to kind of add. You can add in another task, or you can add in another doc. And this is the way to kind of do it. All right, let's see. Give you a quick use case. Link a course list to a client. One that shows the pricing fields. Be nice to see how you can view multiple custom fields that is linked. All right, let's see. So we have a course list. Okay, so the way that we would do this, let's do it in here, new list. And this is going to be, I'm trying to see the example you're given. Okay, course list. Course list, class 1, 2, class 3. Then we have all the different clients. I'm just going to reuse the same kind of clients one here. So what we'll do here is that we'll add new relationship. And we're going to call this course. Link it to a list. Link it to the course one. Like not on the rollups here. So if you did want a shortcut, you could always go in here and then also add them in as well. So then we have this new little bucket here. This are the courses. So hit add, it's automatically looking at just that list there. So I have my 3 here. So then I can start linking them. Let's do 1. Actually, so let's just do that 1. And then let's go back to our course. So the thing with views too, and this kind of thing to keep in mind, you won't see it immediately here because the way our views work is that you actually can customize these. So you're going to have to make it visible here as well. But you can see here that since I created that client's relationship, it's one of the hidden ones that I can enable in here. So I can go ahead and enable it. And it automatically kind of does this linking here. So now I have it here. So if I wanted to add in another thing to note here as well, a lot of good little tidbits. So right now, our relationships are many to many. which means that you can link basically any number on both ends. So I could technically have multiple clients on here. The only reason we did it this way is because it's the most flexible one. There is some requests about being able to control this, where you may say, you know, I can have multiple projects, but I really only want one client for that one. And you set that restriction, and then we kind of enforce it for you. So that's kind of one of those things. But for right now, it's kind of this like many to many way of doing things. And then see, can I not see client budget? There's on the client list on the course list. Oh, okay. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Can I see the client budget? Okay. So one thing that we still don't have, and this is kind of what you're trying to do, is you're trying to do a roll-up of a roll-up. This is a roll-up here, and I want to be able to kind of pull it in into another one. We still don't have that one available, but that's kind of, I think, what you're trying to do there. So actually, that's a good one. And for our customer support team, probably one of those things to add to the feature request list. All right, cool.
Ivan, this has been so helpful. I really appreciate you walking through all of this. I'd say that at this point you have time for maybe one more question and then we're good to go.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see, let's take a look. I think that one. So yeah, I guess this is kind of where I'll leave it at. So we do have, there's obviously a lot of, with a roll-up field especially, a lot of fields and flexibilities and kind of features that we can add into it. So there is a lot of things that we're looking to add. Right now though, it's gonna come around like, can we do it in a performant way? Because when you start doing these, we are pulling, if you've been in ClickUp long enough, you know that we have multiple hierarchy levels. You can go deep into a lot of different subtasks. You can have tasks in multiple lists, and now you're able to kind of pull information from others. Not all of our clients use all of these features at once, but because they are available, sometimes you can end up using these. And we start to do those things, we could run into some bottlenecks with some users. So what we're really trying to do here is we do have, if you have any like special requests, and this is also why I say if you have your use case, we're able to kind of analyze it, see how we can better build it, and then kind of add these features kind of one at a time in there. So yeah, I'll leave it with that. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been an awesome time. I hope you guys learned a lot. And then again, please contribute. Go on our boards, leave feedback. If you find anything, chat with our customer support, and they can kind of funnel it all to us. And I think that'll be it. And I'll talk with you all later.